that is the big problem right now. I mean, like, uh, it as far as getting employment, I think that Gen X is going to be doing it, but unfortunately, as you had said before, a lot of us will be spending a lot of time taking care of boomer parents,
Mm-hmm.
and so we won't have a lot of time for something else, and we'll be spending money for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So yeah. Automation's a slim hope at best. Yeah, I agree.
well, when I say that, I don't mean like everything's going to fall
Oh
apart
yeah.
necessarily, but it's just it. Uh, we're not going to live like this. I don't know if this is going to be the last phone I have. I'm not kidding at all.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Just
you look at where they're
the supply
made.
chain for this damn thing. Could we pull one off in America? Would it be like that? Would it be like your average iPhone or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know what we could.
How?
Well, the problem is that there are too many interests who won't let the kind of factory that needs to be built to make that kind of because we're not going to allow like several counties worth of aquifers get destroyed to make iPhones here. That's part of why we're doing it in China, because they don't, they're at the point where they consider the manufacturing process to be more important than the side effects, the bad side effects that are coming out of it. Whereas our population's too touchy about the side effects, where we're not willing to even entertain the idea of taking on a higher level of toxicity, even if people say, no, the whole time we're taking this on, we're going to work our butts off to try to counteract it. We're going to throw every bit of tech at it to make this work here. And no, we don't want it here.
Right. No, and I understand that'll. I can see that point of view. Please don't point. I don't know whether or not you're going to be able to stop from making this completely undrinkable forever. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the things also you pointed out about China, I thought was interesting, was like China has done what took the British and then later America, from the Industrial Revolution till now, that took several generations in England and America. And in China, they did it in one.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it in one, you have to take a lot of shortcuts, like financial games and stuff like that. And it's just like that's another one of those things where if people slowly came into this technology and the engineering and how to do things, they those all like England, depending on what choices it makes, might be okay in some regards. But France apparently was saying would be really okay, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't quite get that.
I'm assuming it's immigration. I know it's probably the second biggest destination from the Middle East after Germany.
Okay.
Well, because one of the things that, and it's always hard to see, because I don't want people to think that I'm assuming. I'm not a conspiracy person. I don't see everyone working together in a grand plan. But what ends up happening is if you get enough factions that all want the same outcome, and they could have completely different reasons for having the outcome, when they come together, it happens. So a lot of the whole immigration thing we're seeing is actually some of the establishment doing the realization that with the replacement rate we have, the native replacement rate of most of these countries, you have to have people coming in from elsewhere Otherwise, it all falls apart. So some of them actually recognize that, and that is their motive. And they're not even as much. I don't think most of them even think as far as like division of labor. Most of them are thinking in bureaucrat terms, where it's like, well, if you do the numbers, the tax base won't be enough to handle the output over here. So we need more people to come in and work to create the tax base. And I think that's where a lot of the immigration is coming from. I think France realized where it was in terms of demographics, and they made up their mind quite a while ago that they were going to have to make it up with people from outside the country, and the people who are right now most interested in heading to Europe are in the Middle East, because that's probably the place that's the most tumultuous at the moment.
So I think about immigration is that, and I'll sound very right wing here. You don't want just any bodies coming in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like just human beings. You don't want criminals and malcontents. You want people that are like, hey, no, I'm here to have a better life and work. So do places like France do that sort of thing? And with that filter, is that enough to really help with their population goals?
And that's a good question, because I mean, it's one hand to sit there and say, okay, well, yeah, we've demographically solved our problem by bringing in people from all over the world. The question is if you've created like a binary culture in your country, where essentially everybody's not working towards a general cultural end. Is there efficiency at that point? I mean, if one group is saying, yeah, we see the way you oldsters are doing it and blah, 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 and we don't like it, we've brought our ways with us, we're doing it our way, and the two just kind of, are kind of grinding along the frontier with each other in terms of cultural clash. You just to throw a thought out at you, this is something I saw. I unfortunately don't have the quote handy, so I'm going to paraphrase it. It was Coolidge, and at the time there was a lot of things being thrown around about they're trying to figure out what to do with immigration, and he basically Congress was kind of doing the whole, well, there are certain places we want people coming from, and there are certain places we don't want them coming from, if you know what I mean. And Coolidge said something which was pretty cool. He said, well, to me, it doesn't matter if you came to this country 300 years ago on the Mayflower, or if you just came here 3 weeks ago in steerage. Ultimately, all I care about is whether you're culturally American or not. And that culturalness, whether it's something that is brand new to you or something that you've picked up over the generations, doesn't matter to me, because right now we're all in the same boat. And so he was essentially saying, we should be, he wasn't saying open the floodgates. He's saying we shouldn't be picky on region. We should be being picky on who the people are. So they can come from anywhere, but let's make sure that they kind of have at least a few, a few markers that we recognize as critical to the country. And, in terms of, attitudes and beliefs and other things like that. And, so I thought that was a neat take on things. And I don't think France is really I think France was hoping that by bringing in a large group of people from outside, that the French culture itself would be so overwhelming that they would just be, the newcomers would just take to it instantly. How could you resist French culture? That's the perfect. Okay. No, that grunt was the perfect thing to say to that. But it should have been. But I mean, buttered snails. Where can you go wrong? But yeah, so I don't think they've actually gone to the extremes of trying to figure out, because I mean everything I'm hearing there is essentially they uh, have, to a certain extent, unintentionally ghettoized the country, where there's the various people from the various different parts of the world are all congregating in their own places, and they're kind of, if not literally walling it off, but at least culturally walling it off to the rest of France, saying no, we have a culture that works, and it just so happens it didn't work where we were at, but it's working just fine here. So we don't really need to assimilate, at least not in the way that maybe some of the French were thinking when they invited us in.
Yeah, it would. I don't know how you avoid that without being particularly illiberal and harsh.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be like, oh, you're a new family coming in. You get to live over here. You're a new family coming in. You're living over here. I'm not saying you can't visit each other,
Yeah.
but this is where you're going to be because we want you to be culturally French. And I know that people would, but I don't see another way to do that. And I don't think Coolidge's idea would work anymore because I don't think there's a common American culture anymore.
Not as it was. No. I mean, really, because the way the American experiment in terms of immigration worked pre World War II, the big thing is you already had communities that were ready to take people in. So when someone came walking off the boat, there was somebody there. Because I mean, Americans are hucksters and marketeers at heart. So I mean, the moment you walked off the boat, there would be someone saying, hey, blah, 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 I'm with the Democratic Party and blah, 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 and we're going to put you up in this hotel, and it's going to be kind of crappy for a while, but at least you'll have a roof over your head, and never forget who helped you out when you stepped off the boat, and all this other stuff. And they'd find ways to work them in, or their churches would step in and go, they'd walk around and, oh, yeah, you're one of us. Okay, yeah. No. And so the churches were there gathering people up, moving in with the families, and it wasn't a system where you were saying, "Oh, our goal," it wasn't like the parties who were helping out didn't say, "Oh, our goal is to warehouse these people and warehouse them for the next couple generations." Like, no, we're there to get them ingratiated to us, and then turn them into useful citizens. The churches had the same thing. Well, yeah, you're going to live with this family for a little while, but they don't want you there forever. They're there to help you get steady, work out the lay of the land, and get you going, and walk you through everything. And they're essentially your sponsors until this all gets worked out. And then you had various brotherhoods that were ethnically oriented. So they'd yell out in Polish, any fellow Poles out there, and someone, hey, and then this way over here, and then they just kind of mix it up, and it worked. And because it was a voluntarist way of doing things, it worked really, really well, because the people, the people who were being charitable, I guess, I mean, they had an ulterior motive. They did want to help their fellow man, but their ulterior motive is, we want you as part of our group.